Hello, 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 Chicago Bears fans. Welcome to the Bears Den Podcast. We have a great show lined up for you guys tonight. As you can see, we're short-handed. Our boy Todd is out with the flu, so we wish him well. Hoping he's joining us in spirit. But tonight, we're going to talk about the late Virginia McCasky, the late Dick Jauron. Me and Clarence are going to touch on the Super Bowl, and we're going to talk about the linebacking room and the running back rooms. But guys, if you're watching us, please show us some love. Follow us, like us, subscribe to us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Tell all your friends and family and fellow Chicago Bears fans about us. So without further ado, let me introduce the star of the show, the bad guy, Chicago Clarence. Clarence, how are you doing?
What's up, man? It's rainy out there, but I'm doing well.
Yes, it's rainy and it's cool, which is normal. Well, we're still in February, so let's get right into it. As many of you heard, last time we were on the show, there was no news, and after the show, the late Virginia McCasky has passed away. She has been with this team since her birth. Born in 1923, the team was founded in 1920. So she's basically been a Chicago Bear her entire life. Me personally, when I think about this, look at this, it's hard for me to put into words because yes, she owned 22.6% to be the majority owner. Whatever is going to happen, that's a long way down the road yet. But to me, I mean, she's always been there. I mean, there's no one else that can honestly say they have sat down, met, talked, shook hands, hugged every single head coach in the history of this franchise. I mean, there's no one else can say that. She was been there through the founding, the bad times. You know, I read a book where her and her dad had to struggle financially to make ends meet during the off season because at that time they didn't have a lot of money. The NFL was not as lucrative as it is today, so they struggled to make ends meet big time. So Clarence, what do you have to say about the passing of Virginia McCasky?
Well, as a person, all intents and purposes, they said that she was a remarkable lady. Um, I think that would be a great honor to have someone be born into a franchise like the Bears, being a flagship franchise, um, and to have some of the rules and whatnot, things that she had in place for this team. I mean, Chicago Bears danced to their own drum. Um, it's unfortunate that under her reign, the Bears just, other than the '85 team, there was just they could not produce a winner on the field, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens to this team moving forward with her death.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it was shocking, but not shocking. I mean, you live 102 years old. You've done something right in life without question. Um, I kind of feel like that's the last real connection to Papa Bear George Hallis, our founder. Even though it's not, obviously George McCasky was alive when he was alive. But I mean, I personally do not think ownership is going to change. At the 22 point whatever I said, 22%, I think it'll be absorbed somehow. And I expect the McCaskies to retain ownership. That's just my opinion, but that's so far down the road we can't. There's no telling what's going to happen with that. But Chicago Clarence, what you think ownership's going to change at all?
Well, you got to think about it.
Yeah.
She was the only call to um, Papa Bear,
Yes.
and there are people in that ownership group that don't want to own the Chicago Bears. They are cash cow. They feel like this team is a cash cow, and they want to sell the team to they're looking at what these franchises are selling for. Look what the Redskins, well, the
Yes.
Commanders sold for. This team right now is worth anywhere to $6 to $7 billion. If you don't really care about football that much, you're sitting there looking at your piece of that pie. That would be significant. Um, this has been going on for the last few years. I could see why the team resisted selling before because the old lady was still alive, but now that she's gone, let's think about it. Her other son, who was running the team, who was the president,
Hmm.
the CEO when the '85 Bears won the Super Bowl. Um,
Michael, if I'm not mistaken, or Ed. I can't. I'd have to
yeah,
look it up.
Michael's no longer with us. Um, I just, for me, with all due respect to Virginia, this team has not ran well under her. Point blank. When I look at other teams in the football in the NFL and look at the success that they have had with just competent ownership, it's mind-boggling
Hmm.
that we can't get it right. And you put your sons in charge who know nothing about football. Heck, George has been on record numerous times saying he knows nothing about football, but you're running a National Football League team. So it's no wonder we can't get it right because we are asleep at the wheel. All they doing over there is counting money. Um, so I don't wish death upon nobody because there's no coming back from that. But with that, I am hoping that it brings about change. I want us to be a competent running franchise.
Yes, I agree. I Again, it's hard. It's hard for me to put into words because I do think, as the McCasky family, I think they have failed. I hate to say it like that, but I think they have failed as owners. I mean, it's for the first time ever we have spent a lot of money on head coaching. First time ever. We've been in a franchise since 1920, and we just, by Chicago Bears standards, we just broke the bank. I mean, broke the bank for a head coach. We've never shelled out $13 million for a head coach. And I wish she could see, if this comes to fruition, if this works out for us with Ben Johnson and us shelling out $13 million. I don't know if it's going to work out. We don't know that. Right now he's 0-0. I mean, I wish she could have seen if this comes to fruition, but I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, but I personally think McCaskey's will absorb her 20, whatever I said, 22.6%, and they will retain ownership. They may sell off a little pieces, but I still think a McCasky will own enough to be the majority owner of the Bears. That's just how I feel. And also, you want to say anything else about Virginia, Clarence, before we move on?
Anything else about Virginia?
Yeah.
Well, like I said before, I don't wish death upon anybody. There's no coming back from that. But I would say that she seemed that she had a remarkable life,
Yes.
privileged life. So may she rest in peace. Maybe, hopefully, if the team does retain ownership, and I'm hoping they do not, but if they do, maybe they could finally produce a winner.
Yeah. And also, since our last show, Dick Jauron has passed away. Um, he was a coach for 5 years. He had one really good year. He was 13-3, got coach of the year. He had 2 losing seasons before that and 2 losing seasons after his 13-3 season. But most people say he was a better man than he was a head coach, is what I hear most people say about Dick Jauron. So we're just going to, Clarence, do you want to say anything about him?
We say that a lot about a lot of our football coaches.
Yeah,
They're better men and they've been better head coaches. So we
that
hear that
is.
a lot.
So, Clarence, you want to bring this up. Normally, we don't talk about other teams, other stuff, but Sunday night was a not so Super Bowl. To me, if you're a Chicago Bears fan, you just learn why the trenches is so important. To me, to Philadelphia Eagles controlled the trenches. They won the game, hands down. Chicago Clarence, what were your thoughts on the Super Bowl?
Looking at that football game, a couple things came very apparent to me. For all intents and purposes, everybody wants to crown Patrick Mahomes as the best quarterback ever. But you can see what happens when you don't have a offensive line in front of you.
Right.
And if you don't have time to go through your progressions, if you don't have time to make decisions, then you are not going to be a very good football team. I think they had how many first downs in the first half? Two, three, something like that.
Yeah.
Being sacked as many times as he was. And this is something that we have subjected our quarterbacks through forever. From Mitchell Trubisky to Justin Fields to Caleb Williams being sacked as many times as he was this year. I think he was the third or fourth highest sack quarterback this year. You're not going to be a good football team. You're not going to have a good offense. You're not going to be able to have a functioning running game if you are incompetent, if chaos is going on your offensive line. Most importantly, the guy that everybody wants to throw the checkbook at, Trey Smith, he
Yeah.
had a rough game.
Yeah.
Jalen Carter ate his lunch. Anybody who's not familiar with Jalen Carter, let me tell you who he is. He's somebody that the Chicago Bears could have drafted. You know why we didn't
Yes.
draft Jalen Carter?
I
Because
remember.
we didn't think that our locker room could sustain a person with a personality like him. Meaning he is a beast. And we didn't think that we could control him.
Let me ask you something. Let me stop. Do you think we were right? I do think we were right. Look at our locker room. Look how our staff has imploded. I don't think we could have supported that kid. But do you think we could have supported that kid? If we would have drafted him, honestly, do you think we would have put him in a position to succeed? I do not, because it's just
I think that you're supposed to be able to.
I
You
agree
are
with
a
that.
professional football team.
Yeah, I
It
agree with
isn't
that.
an indictment on you if you can't draft somebody whom you know you need and could have helped you, and you were worried about him simply because you picked the wrong head coach, which we seem to do a lot. So that's their fault.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I think I mean, obviously, we could have drafted him. We stayed away from him because of the trouble issues. I don't remember exactly what they were.
He
Speeding,
had a
I remember
speeding
one.
ticket.
Yeah,
He had
I don't.
he had multiple speeding tickets.
Yes,
Um,
but I
you
don't
know,
think.
I the vetting process in sports is just mind-boggling to me. Every little thing that you get accused of doing or whispers about whatever your personality have or what your score on the winner lit test is, they try to invite science into all of this. Sometimes you just need to use common sense. Now, we drafted Darnell Wright. Darnell
Mhm.
Wright is a staple on our offensive line. We had two needs. We needed offensive lineman and we needed a defensive lineman. And I would love to see what Jalen Carter, what our defense would look like if Jalen Carter was on it right now, because we still need an offensive line. We ain't got
Mhm.
that fixed yet.
I couldn't. I couldn't believe that Philadelphia exploited Kansas City's offensive line that badly, and no one else could this year. It's like everybody else that played the Chiefs could. How could they not get home? Like Philadelphia, they got a rush on Patrick Mahomes. I read 45% of the time. That's every other play that he dropped back. They were in his face. I mean, they made a Hall of Fame quarterback look pedestrian. I mean, yeah, if you look at his stats, you're just thinking, wow, he didn't do that. But yeah, the first three quarters, it was that bad. The
And
Eagles throttled back in the fourth quarter, and that's when he made hay. But it was that bad. Like I quit watching. I haven't quit watching a Super Bowl in a long time. I quit watching. It
the
was that
concerning
bad.
thing was they did all of that to him without blitzing one single time.
Right. They were
But
eating.
you also saw Patrick Mahomes do uncharacteristic mistakes,
Yes.
turning the ball over. He had a fumble. He had two interceptions. He looked disheveled. So if the greatest ever to do it looks that way, what do you think Justin Fields is going to do back there? What do you think Mitchell Trubisky is going to do? What do you
Hmm.
think Caleb Williams is going to do? So Chicago Bears, I'm talking to you. This is what happens to a team's quarterback when you can't protect him. Your
Yeah.
offense suffers. You can't run the ball. If you can't run the ball, you damn sure ain't going to be able to throw it because they know you got to throw it and they're going to come after you. This is something the Chicago Bears go through every single year. So, Ryan Poles, I hope you were paying attention. You
Yeah.
have got to address this offensive line. And I
Oh.
keep hearing about all of these mock trades and whispers and rumors about the Bears being involved for a stud edge rusher. Yes, we need an edge rusher, but I do not. Let me repeat this. I do not want to mortgage our future and put our quarterback's health at risk because we want to have a glamour defense and
Hmm.
still not protect him. Ryan Pace did this already.
Yeah, he
We
did.
built out the stud defense. We signed players. We traded players. We drafted players on defense, and we did nothing on the offensive line. And it stunted Mitchell Trubisky's growth, which spilled over into Justin Fields. Now we're doing the same thing with Caleb Williams. I implore you, Ryan Poles, please, please put our capital to building up this offensive line. We got money under the cap. Let's sign free agents.
Mhm.
Let's make it make sense.
I agree with that 100%. If you do not watch this game and you do not realize how important the line of scrimmage is, then I don't know what other example to give you. Eagles won that game solely because they dominated the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball. And that was an example of why we have got to fix that offensive line. I mean, could you imagine what Caleb Williams would have do with the Eagles' offensive line? I mean, Jalen Hurts was under duress a couple of times, but nothing like Patrick Mahomes. Nothing like Patrick Mahomes was. So what Caleb Williams did with this shitty offensive line that we put out there, it's remarkable. And the coaching, the play calling, the firing, the termination of the list just goes on and on. So, guys, tonight we continue with our breakdown of our free agents. Tonight we start in the linebacking room and the running back room. Chicago Clarence, I'll let you go first on this one. Let me bring up the linebacking room. So linebackers, we have Darrell Taylor, Akban, Jake Martin, and Jack Sanborn heading to free agency. Darrell Taylor, we just paid $3.1 million. Akban, we paid $2.1 million. Sanborn, we paid $855,000. He was on a rookie deal. That's why he was super cheap. And Jake Martin, we paid $1.2 million. Would you re-sign any of our free agents on this list?
Sanborn would be the only guy. Sanborn has started, and he's been a relatively good player. He's somebody who maximizes his talent in his production. He gets basically we get everything out of him. He tries and he comes to play every single week. So he would be somebody that I would sign. Darrell Taylor, I said it when we signed him. Waste of
Mm-hmm.
money.
Yeah. We only
I
got
said
three.
it when he signed him.
I
You and
think we
Tom
got,
looked at me like I was crazy. I told y'all.
we
Waste of
basically
money.
got 3 sacks for $3 million.
Yep.
Sanborn, I agree with you 100%. He's the only one I might sign Akban because he was not a bad special teams player. But Sanborn, I have a feeling 855,000, that's going to go up. Somebody's going to raise that price tag on him because somebody's going to look at that kid and say, hey, he could be a starter. He could be a fringe starter.
Well, I'm not going to overpay
Yeah.
for him now. Let's
Yeah.
let's make that clear. I'm gonna have a number set, and if he balks at it, I'll let him go because he ain't that great that we got to overpay for him. We got other people in the room that can
Yeah.
step right into his position. Noah Sewell comes to mind.
I was going to get to him. What do you think of Noah Sewell, honestly? 2 years, he hasn't given us much.
He
Now, we
hasn't
have,
been given much of an
yeah,
opportunity though.
he's been hurt a lot. Well, he's signed to a basic rookie deal, 4 years, 4.1 million. He expires at 2026. Edmonds, we signed to 4 years, 72 million. He expires in 2026, but we have an out after the 2025 season. Do you think we overpaid for Edmonds at 4 years, 72 million?
We're only saying that now, but we didn't say it the first after his first
No,
year.
no,
We
we
felt
didn't.
like it was money well spent. But
Yeah.
listen, a lot of these people on defense, I'm gonna give a pass to because the Bears have been such a mess in it with their coaching. It was only when Matt Eberflus was calling the plays that we looked like a competent defense once we got Sweat. And
Mm-hmm.
this defense operated, you know, as a competent defense. Um, with Allen coming in now, I'm very interested and excited to see what he's going to do with the talent that he has on defense, particularly
Yes.
Edmonds and Edwards, and how he chooses to use them. Normally, the secondary, with the exotic looks that Allen likes to use, is going to be the strong part of the defense. But I always felt like our secondary was the strongest part of our defense anyway. So, um, you can see Edmonds and Edwards having a better year if
Yeah.
we address the defensive line. We've got to get a monster in the middle.
Yes, we
And if
do.
we're able to generate pressure to keep them offensive linemen and keep the running backs and from getting to the second level on our linebackers, then we'll be able to see Edmonds and Edwards play at a better rate and play I guess you could say, start to earn their money.
So TJ Edwards, we signed to a 3-year, $19.5 million. He expires at the end of next season. I feel like at 19.5, he's actually a steal. Is he not? I mean, he's highly productive. He's played every game. He gets us about 100 tackles a season. I mean, I feel like he's actually a steal at 19.5 million. I like him. And then Carl Jones Jr., we have 1 year at 840 left. So we do have a need in free agency for linebackers. And like Clarence said, I'm on board with keeping Sanborn. And I would bring Akbon back for special teams only. And Taylor and Martin, I let go. So that brings us to a free agent. And number one on the list, you might recognize this guy. Unfortunately, this does not come up this well. But the top one is Khalil Mack. I've already seen people on social media bring him up that we need to bring him back. Chicago Clarence, what are your thoughts on bringing back Mack? Would you do it? I mean, we do have a need for pass rush. I mean, I've seen it on social media many times. People are putting his image all over the place. And these lists are courtesy of Spot Track. Khalil Mack, Hassan Reddick, Matthew Judon, Levante David, Dre Greenlaw are expected to be the top free agent linebackers. Number one is Mack. He's number one on the list. Would you go for him, Clarence?
Well, what's it going to cost? That's the number
Yeah.
one question. What's it going to cost?
Yeah.
Now, Khalil Mack had a really good year. I mean, he did better than anybody the Bears had. He even had a better year than Sweat this past season. So I'm open to discussing it, but it's not my number one target. I think that we can get Chase Young in here,
Yeah.
um, sign him to a 2-3 year deal. Loaded with incentives and address that position that way. That would be the route that I would choose. And then we draft a young edge rusher to come up because we don't know when it comes time to pay um, our quarterback. We're going to
Yeah.
need that money,
Yeah.
because he's going to be making 50 million a year,
Yeah. He is.
which I think is ridiculous money for a for anybody to be making $50 million a year to play a game.
Yeah.
$50 million.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I can't. Like you said, what is Khalil Mack going to cost? But I feel like it's just a band aid, which we seem to be doing a lot of, a band aid, a stopgap. I mean, Hassan Reddick, I wouldn't touch. He wanted a big deal. We all know the story with the Jets. Matthew Judon, maybe if the money's right. If the money's right, I'll sit down and talk to him. But I feel like Judon, Reddick, Mac, those are just stopgaps, band aids. I don't. They're not long term solutions.
Well, what's the plan going to
Yeah,
be?
yeah,
Ryan Poles has got to let us know what the plan is going to be.
yeah,
What are your going targets going to be in free agency? I think most of that money should go to the offensive line.
yeah. I do
I
too.
think that we should be trying to get a left tackle and a guard and maybe even possibly a center. You don't want to try to go to the draft and get three starters on your offensive line or even your defensive line. We don't need that. We need to have proven players to go in there and put on that old line. And then we need to start. I would rather try to band-aid the defensive line than the offensive line. We've been trying that for the last 4 years
Yes, we
with the
have.
O line. It ain't worked yet.
No, it has not. So that brings us to the other side of football, and we're going to talk about the running back room. So we have Travis Homer, Dontarian Evans facing free agency. And then we have DeAndre Swift under contract. We have him at 3 years, $24 million. We have a potential out after 2025. And Roshan and Wheeler, we have signed to the basic rookie deals. They both expire at 2026. Chicago Clarence, I don't know about you, but I was not overly impressed with our running back room last year. What are your thoughts on our running back room?
You cannot run the ball if you can't run block.
Right. I mean, did you
You know,
like DeAndre Swift?
I personally do not think that our running back room is that bad, but we are that bad at run blocking. So I don't care who you put back there. You can put Travis Henry back there. You can put Christian McCaffrey back there. You can put Saquon Barkley back there. You can even reincarnate Walter Payton and put him back there behind our line. You ain't going to be no different than what happened this year. Address the offensive line, and the running game will come. DeAndre Swift is a home run threat,
Yes,
but the guy is too easy to tackle.
he is.
I want somebody who runs behind their pads, meaning knock you on your ass. Roshan Johnson is that type of runner, but he doesn't have home run threat speed. I liked what I saw in Ian Wheeler before he tore his ACL.
Yeah, I did
Is
too.
he going to be healthy? Is the big question. And that would depend on what I do at the running back position. There are some guys that's coming out of the draft that are downhill runners. The guy at Arizona State, can't think of his name.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Scatterborough.
Yeah. I like him. There's no way I'm drafting Gentry at number 10. No way.
I've seen that mocked so many times already.
No way am I drafting Gentry at number 10. I just got you saying, why would you spend a first round pick, a top
Yeah,
10 pick on a running back, thinking that that's going to change your running fortune when your offensive line is trash?
I agree. I would not.
That's just going out. This is like going out there and buying a brand new car and you ain't got no damn license. You're defeating the purpose.
No, I would not draft. I mean, I don't have nothing against Genty. To me, Genty is the type of player you have when your roster is full, it's filled, and you're ready to go. You're ready to win. That's when you draft Genty. We're not ready to win with this offensive line. We're not ready to win.
What's the love affair with
Yeah,
Genty anyway?
I don't get it.
Everybody wants to talk about it. He should have won the Heisman, this and that. That dude did all this stuff, and he wasn't even in a Power Five conference.
I
So
don't.
tell me what happens when he plays against good defenses in college? Because he didn't play against a single one, not a single one.
I think.
You know,
Yeah.
you know who I love, and I wish that was coming out this year. Jeremiah Love for Notre Dame, homer and threat. He breaks tackles. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, and he blocks. He pass blocks. But Ashton Jenkins, he doesn't even do that well. All he does is run over inferior competition, playing against, stacking up stats against Sisters of the Poor. I don't care because you scored all these touchdowns against the YMCA University. But
Yeah,
what you
I
gonna do when you're in a pro style offense and you're running behind suspect offensive line like the Chicago Bears because he's out there on social media talking about that's a good fit? No, it ain't. We don't need you, and I damn sure don't
mhm.
want him. Not at number 10.
No, I do. I am not on board with taking Genty at 10. No, I mean, I like I said, I don't have nothing against him. We got bigger and greater needs than a running back at 10. I feel like the people that post that are just trying for clicks, trying to get people's blood boiling because there's no way we should take Genty at 10.
Well, that part is working. They
Yeah.
draft him. I'm gonna flip a table this time.
Oh Lord. Oh my God. Yes, and I have witnessed him almost flip a table. He is not joking when he talks about flipping tables and leaving without paying tabs. Have to be chased out into the parking lot and asked to come back in. He is not joking. And what player will you throw hands with if you still see him? The dude
Oh
for
God, Chris Conti. If I run
yes.
into Chris Conti, he getting his ass whooped. Plain and simple. It's gonna be a problem.
Yes. So Chicago Clarence, anything else you want to add to tonight's show? Want to bring up?
Well, since we seem to win the off season every single year and it
Yes.
doesn't spill over to, end season, I'm just sitting back and I want to see how we attack free agency. I know we're going to do a show on free agency, but that's what I want to do. I am also intrigued as to what's going to happen with this tax situation. What are the
Yeah.
Bears going to do? I would also like to know what are we going to do about Arlington Heights. I know on December 10th, they the legislation over there in Arlington Heights passed a vote 8-0 that they were going to set the Bears tax to 3.6 million a year versus the 9 million that they asked for after the purchase was over with, which is the reason why the Bears didn't start construction because the town of Arlington Heights wanted to charge them 9 million a year taxes. And the Bears balked at that. So we went through all of this spiel about, oh, let's build it here, let's build it there, let's build it. Now it's at $3.6 million. I think that's very doable and very fair for that. So now, what are we going to do with Virginia dying? Does the Bears already have a plan in place as to who's going to own the team if they're going to still own it? Because all of this is purchased by them.
Mm-hmm.
They spent $196 million for that property, and they've owned it for 2 years now, and they ain't done shit with it. It's just sitting there, and you've been paying taxes on it for 2 years. That's asinine, and you still don't even have plans for the property. So what are you gonna do?
I feel like, just my personal opinion, I feel like the Chicago Bears have to divorce the city. I'm sure in their rental contract right now, there's language that if they leave early, the fee or penalty is going to be high. And I feel like that's probably the biggest sticking point is them being in bed with the city and divorcing the city early, asking for a divorce early. I feel like it's usually in every single contract. Say when you rent an apartment or you rent a house, you leave early, you got to pay a penalty. And I feel like that is probably what the holdup is. I mean, you feel like that, Chicago Clarence?
Listen,
Divorce from the city.
what the Chicago Bears need to do is go ahead and start construction out there at Arlington Heights. Build a metroplex that you've been talking about doing so you can finally start earning money and putting it in your pocket. You can sell media rights, you can sell name your all of that right out there at Arlington Heights. You are still under contract to play football at Soldier
Hmm.
Field. And I
Right.
know for the city of Chicago, it's hard watching them play there every week while they're out there building a new stadium someplace. So you know they're going to leave you. It's just like sitting at home watching your mate leave the house every night, knowing that they're cheating on you. And eventually they're going to leave. It is what it is. You didn't treat them right while you had them. Because you
Yeah.
know the Chicago Bears is the only team that doesn't own their stadium.
Right.
Mind you, they are the lowest seating capacity in the NFL.
Right.
With the new plans that they would talk about building at the lakefront, they were still going to be the lowest seating capacity stadium in the league. That's asinine to me,
It is.
especially when you have a demand for your product. As sorry as the Bears have been in all these decades, their waiting list for season tickets is 10 years. So
Yeah.
the demand is there. Why in God's name you will build a stadium that doesn't even meet the needs of your your ticket base is beyond me. But whatever. I'm not going to land them for that today. You got the property out there at Arlington Heights. You've reached an agreement on this on the taxes for it. Go build a damn thing and let's get this shit over with. It's going to take you 3 to 5 years to build a damn stadium any damn way. Pay the exit fee for legal Soldier Field and let's get the hell up out of there.
Hmm.
And oh, by the way,
Yeah. Go ahead.
make it a dome stadium so you can host a Super Bowl. Because that's the
Yeah.
only way you're. The NFL is not going to give you a Super Bowl if the stadium is open ceiling, open roof. You know why? Because they've already learned their lesson. Holding it in New York, it was cold as hell and it was miserable playing the Super Bowl in the rain and the cold. Ain't gonna happen. You know what the weather's like in Soldier Field? I mean, in
Yes.
Chicago in January
Yes.
or early February. It ain't pleasant.
No, I mean, I think they need a dome in Chicago, period, for, I mean, we're the third largest market in America. We can't host Final Fours. We can't host the big fights for UFC or boxing. It can't host WrestleMania. Can't host Super Bowls. We can't host anything like that because we don't have a dome. So you're talking about all that revenue that we could have is we can't host any of that stuff because we don't have the dome or the stadium to do it.
And
So
people
that
wonder
yes,
why. People wonder why we just kill this franchise so much when we do our shows, but it's for reasons like this because this stuff just makes no sense. You're raking in money. Why you haven't fixed this problem is beyond me. Why in God's name did you pay to help remodel Soldier Field a decade ago, which by the way you're still making payments on? Why didn't you go through the process of building a new stadium then? Why would I mean let's get it. You don't own the building. Why would you
no,
pay to help remodel it? That's
yeah,
crazy.
it is.
That is crazy. That you would help. You had to refinance this damn thing this loan 3 times since you had it to make payments on this thing that's been sitting there 10 years and you still don't own the building. They tell you what to do. You don't tell them. The Parks and Recreation Department of the city of Chicago runs Soldier Field. They collect all the revenue. You pay rent there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, come on. It's common sense, guys. Build a damn state of Arlington Heights and let's go.
No, I agree. I agree with you 100%. It's time to move into 2025. I keep saying it all the time. But it is, now that you bring up stadiums, it is crazy that we used to play at Wrigley Field. I mean, Virginia McCasky has been around for every stadium we played in as well. I mean, when I go to Wrigley Field, I can't fathom that there used to be Chicago Bears games at Wrigley. I mean, Soldier Field is small. You start putting us in Wrigley, I think that holds like 45, 40. That's really small. And back then, it wasn't 45, 46. It was a lot smaller than 45, 46. But that's just so. Chicago Clarence, you got any final thoughts before we sign off?
Only that I want to start winning.
Yeah,
I
me
say that
too.
every week, every show that we have, I want to start winning. I am sick and tired of the monotony that we have of losing on how we do business. I want change. And the old lady wanted to see a winner before she died. We didn't give it to well. I won't say we because I wouldn't have done them these stupid ass decisions that they make. They didn't give it to her. Her sons failed her. And George McCaskey's going to have that on his conscience because he was sitting up there crying about wishing that he had given his mom a better product on the field. I do too. But if you're going to own the team, if you're going to keep the team, start doing business a different way. And why? I know Virginia McCaskey didn't want this, but let's have some cheerleaders. I mean, what's wrong with having some nice honeys out there shaking their asses? I mean, come on, let's get with it.
I don't know. I don't know why she stopped that. Put a ban on cheerleaders. I don't get it either, but I don't know. I mean, now we're one of the few teams that do not have cheerleaders.
Yeah,
Yet here
that
we are,
needs to
the oldest
change.
Here we are, the oldest franchise. So again, guys, thank you. If you are watching us, please follow us, like us, subscribe to us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. So until next time, bear down, guys, and thank you for watching.